Hello once again, Wadsworth, for episode number 11 of the Tommy Maroon Sports Show here on this Wednesday, or whenever you may be watching this. It doesn't matter when you watch it. It really matters if you could get that knowledge of sports right here on WCTV. And as usual, we're going to dive right into the water with our question. Of course, there's the Suburban League stuff, but here's my question. How many NFL championships do the Cleveland Browns have? That's right, NFL championships. The correct answer is 4 NFL championships, which happened from the 1950s up to 1964. And we also won 4 AAFC championships, the All-American Football Conference, which was where these Browns were originally from 1946 to 1949. So let's look at the Suburban League recap. As you might know, high school football is one of my favorite topics, and those are the scores on your left. North Royalton beat Highland 35-28. That game was suspended midway through it due to lightning, which reminds me it was Friday the 13th. Are you superstitious, folks? Because games were suspended and called due to lightning. Luckily, all the games were finished, and I believe nobody got hurt. Anyways, unfortunately, the Hornets, I believe, are the only team without a win in the Suburban League, which is kind of frustrating, but you know what? You know they're going to win it soon. I just got a good feeling about it. Aurora beat Twinsburg 30-0 there. Barberton took down Cuyahoga Falls for Cuyahoga Falls' first loss of the season. Magic's 56-21. Lake beat Copley 30-9. CVCA rebounded against Revere, winning it 38-24. Ravenna and Roosevelt. That's right, Ravenna's off to a hot start, 3-0. They beat Roosevelt in triple overtime. Coventry was able to take down the Talmadge Blue Devils 27-6. Coventry 3-0. Speaking of 3-0, Strongsville is also 3-0, being Brecksville 48-32. Hudson was able to beat Brush for their first win of the season, 34-12. Mayfield beat Nordonia 43-23. Stowe was able to pound Solon 50-19 in a game that was surprisingly a blowout. And of course, one of the biggest games in the state, not as big as the St. Ignatius upset over Archbishop Hoban 42-41, by the way, to dethrone Archbishop Hoban, which has been one of the best high school football schools out there in Ohio lately. But what I think would be the second best game in the state, why it's the one at the bottom of your screen. Number 15 Medina was able to sneak out with a home victory against Wadsworth, 31-28. So we'll see if Wadsworth can rebound. Of course, they're heavyweight favorites for the Suburban League National Conference. Speaking of conference, in-conference play starts. Every team in the National Conference will play each other from now on for the rest of the season. This will not include American Conference versus National Conference. Like, for instance, say if Highland goes up against Stowe, that will not count for conference play. And every team plays each other once. And the team with the best in-conference play will be their champion. And I believe they do not play each other for the Suburban League Championship. That's why I think. Maybe I'm wrong, but we'll see. And, of course, Week 4 preview. Aurora against Padua Franciscan. The Green Men will keep up a strong start. Highland against Barberton. Magics are still looking to rebound from that tough loss. And Highland, they're still looking for the first win. Revere against Talmadge. Revere trying to get back from that loss. And Wadsworth against Hudson. Of course, Grizzlies had a tough loss there. And, of course, while we're on the topic of high school football, I got to give my prediction so far. American Conference looks like Aurora, and the National Conference will be the winner of Wadsworth Stowe. So when those two teams square off, that might be one of the biggest games in all the Suburban League. I can't wait for it. It's going to be exciting. So now let's put on your Cleveland Indians caps, folks. Let's get going. Cleveland Indians, that's right. We're going to look at some hot players. Some hot players include Robbie Perez. There's Robbie Perez socking a high home run against Houston. 462 average over the last 7 games, which include the Angels and Twins series, 6 hits and 3 RBIs. Oscar Mercado, 423 average, 11 hits and 4 runs in that span. Who could possibly forget about Speedy Greg Allen, 400 average, 4 hits, 2 runs scored. And you know what? Did I ever tell you the Southpaw killer Jordan Luplow was back? Because he sure is. That's right, Southpaw killer doing what he does best. A 364 average. Now we're going to get into fancy stats. 563 on base percentage and a 1.000 slugging percentage and a 1.563 OPS. So playoff odds according to our good pals Baseball Reference. After the Angel series, 53.9% chance at the playoffs, 48.9 at the wild card, 5 at the AL Central, 28.9 at the ALDS, 12.7 at the ALCS, 6 for the pennant, and 2.1 to win the World Series. And after the Twins series, a 40.5% chance at the playoffs, 39.4 at the wild card, 1.1 at the AL Central, 19.2 or for the ALDS, 8 for the ALCS, 4% for the pennant, and 1.6 to win the World Series. While the odds are looking kind of low, I want you to think about this, folks. The Cleveland Indians, well, now for Baseball Reference, heading into today, they say that we will be the second wild card facing off against Oakland. That's right. They think that right now we will make the playoffs and not Tampa. So that's going to be pretty exciting. Of course, Cleveland definitely needs to win the World Series. They haven't won it all since 1948. To put that into comparison, as I always say, Dumont was on television the last time the Cleveland Indians won the World Series. I mean, think about that. People, if they were lucky enough to get those little box TVs, they would turn on the dial to their local Dumont television network station and see if they won the World Series. That's what everybody in Cleveland did in 1948. And they did win the World Series that year. Now time to look at some series recaps. Indians against the Angels. Indians won that series, swept the Angels, and we swept the Angels all season long, 6-0 against the Halos. Yu Chang had a 3-run shot on the first game. Lupo, Southpaw killer, and Francisco Lindor had home runs in the second game. And also on that game, Zach Plesac a complete game shutout. And important news on the third game, Carlos Carrasco got his first win since his leukemia diagnosis. So congratulations to Carrasco. It's all part of a hopeful quick recovery. And the Indians against the Twins, we lost this series, unfortunately. Kind of a confidence wrecker. But you know what? We won the season series 10-9, 10 games to 9 against the Twins. In fact, it started on a Saturday doubleheader. We lost both games 2-0 and then 9-5. But we would recover on the third game when Robbie Perez, I told you about him, he had a 3-run homer on the third game. And we were 4.5 back on Minnesota at the time and 1.5 back at Tampa. We now sit 5 games back from the Twins and half a game back from Tampa of that wild card. So we are on the inside or outside looking in. Hopefully we will be on the inside soon. Now, take off this Cleveland Browns hat, or Indians hat. I already spoiled it. Cleveland Browns hat. That's right, we got to look at some hot players. Baker Mayfield is one of them, 60.3 completion percentage, 8.4 yards per attempt, 610 yards and 2 touchdowns. Nick Chubb, meanwhile, 137 yards, 3.7 yards per carry and 1 touchdown. OBJ, Odell Beckham Jr., 13 receptions, 232 yards, 1 touchdown. Jarvis Landry does not have a receiving touchdown, but he has 99 yards, 14.1 yards per carry. So let's look at our draft picks. That includes Greedy Williams in the second round from LSU. And so he's a cornerback from LSU, as I mentioned. 6'2", 185. Sloan Taki in the third round. Fun last name, I know. Linebacker from BYU, standing at 6'1" and 238. There was also Sheldrick Redwine, a safety from Miami, standing at 6 foot exactly, 196 pounds. And for kicker, or 5th round, we had Austin Siebert, our kicker from Oklahoma, and Mac Wilson from Alabama, the linebacker, 6'1", 240. Drew Forbes was selected in the 6th round, a tackle from Southeast Missouri State, 6'5", 305 pounds. 7th round, Donnie Lewis Jr., cornerback from Tulane, at 6 feet exactly and 195 pounds. So we weren't able to show you any highlight packages from last Monday night's game in which the Cleveland Browns went off against the New York Jets. How fitting that we went up against the New York Jets. Let me go with the history lesson right here, folks. On September the 21st, 1970, the Cleveland Browns and the New York Jets faced off on the very first game of Monday Night Football. We would win that one 31-21. Now fitting down the 50th season of Monday Night Football that we would go back against each other. Browns won it fittingly 23-3. And the biggest highlight of the game was, without a doubt, the 89-yard missile from Baker Mayfield to Odell Beckham Jr. Odell was absolutely having some fun at his old home, MetLife Stadium, better known as the New Meadowlands. He had 6 receptions, 161 yards, and 1 touchdown. And Nick Chubb had the other touchdown of the ball game. That's right, there were only 2 touchdowns. It was a 19-yard touchdown run second quarter. And not to mention, Austin Siebert had 3 field goals. Pretty impressive. And, of course, Baker Mayfield, we're going to go with more stats. Baker, 19 for 35, 325 yards, 1 touchdown and 1 interception. Meanwhile, Nick Chubb, 18 carries, 62 yards, and 1 touchdown. So, next week is going to be a big one for the Cleveland Browns for the first time since 2008. They are playing Sunday Night Football, First Energy Stadium, Browns and Rams. That might be a Super Bowl soon. Of course, the Cleveland Browns are definitely looking to go to the Super Bowl. They have never been there. Here's a little goofy story for you. In 6th grade, I made my very own silly story called The Year the Cleveland Browns Won the Super Bowl. It's a comedy story, but hey, you know what? With what we've been doing lately, with all the hype, all the excitement, that completely fantasy book is probably going to come to a reality soon, albeit without all the crazy stuff. But I'm excited. The Browns do look like a Super Bowl team in a few years. Maybe this year. You never know. This will be a big test against the Rams, so we'll see what happens. And in case you don't know, our time is now up here for this episode of the Tommy Maroon Sports Show. We thank you all so much for watching. But, of course, before we do that, trivia question, and we got to do our topics. Our topics for next week are going to be the usual 3. High school football, Cleveland Indians, Cleveland Browns, excuse me. And we're going to get to the NHL and NBA and Cleveland Cavaliers. Should be fun as usual. And we're going to sign off with my trivia question of the week. Here it is. What year did the Suburban League split into 2 divisions? That's right. What year did the Suburban League split into 2 divisions? And do you know what year it was? I'm not saying till next week. That's why you should always watch the Tommy Maroon Sports Show, because you're going to get some trivia out of it. Till then, so long.